Great.
Fantastic.
Let's get straight into it, shall we, gentlemen?
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's just give everybody one more minute to connect in. We are live, but we'll give everybody, in case they're getting their cups of coffee, we'll give them a chance.
How are you all today?
Need a haircut.
I
can actually get one because where I live, there are plenty of kind of underground hairdressers operating. But if I get one and I do something like this, then everyone will see I've had a haircut, and that's bad for my, I probably wouldn't go down very well, as I'm kind of, an authority figure, thought leader technically. I'm probably not meant to be having unlicensed haircuts. So I have one booked in before the 6th of July, 9 a.m. in the morning on King's Road. So I'll be down at Ted Baker at 9 a.m. getting it sorted. I need the grey bits. It's actually the grey bits cutting out, David. It's not more of a length, it's just the fact they trimmed the grey for me. And it gets it done. So it's all there. I've got the IV booked for Sunday lunch on the 5th of July. I've got a haircut 6th of July. Then,
low maintenance. That's all I'm going to say, low maintenance.
Normality returns. I know. I should probably diet, actually. It's just getting a bit... Okay.
Well, let's get right into it. Good morning, good afternoon. Gentlemen, it's the right time of the day for you guys over there. Thanks to everybody joining us, and welcome to Loyalty Leaders Insights by the Loyalty Summit. We've got two fantastic guests joining us today, Rob Burgess and Gilbert Ott. And guys, I might just hand over to you for 30 seconds, do a quick introduction for yourselves, and then we'll dive right into the topic. Rob, let's start with you.
Okay, I started Head for Points back in 2011. I was a banker for a long time, did a lot of traveling. I've been on Fly Talk since about 2004. When I left banking, I thought this might be a fun way to stop my wife making me get a proper job again. It just got a bit silly, unfortunately. I do as much work now as I ever did. But yeah, that's what we are. I mean, we do 1.72 million page views a month, 80% UK readership. So, very focused on stuff which a UK-based reader wants to work. Because the UK is quite a centralised country, if you're based in London, you've got the BA, Virgin, IHG, Hilton, Marriott, etc. offices all very close to you. So you can run a site like this in a way which you say you can't in the States because you don't actually have easy access to all the big players. So it gives us quite a nice, it allows us to run a more news-driven approach than you could probably get of an American blog, I think. Done.
Perfect. And Gib?
So Gilbert here. I run God Save the Points. I've been an enthusiastic traveler since I think I was born. I think I joined my first loyalty program at age 10 and have been obsessed with, trying to relay the information I've been able to distill throughout the years and give people a chance to do some of the cool things in travel I've been able to, and keep them informed on where to go, how to get there, and a few things along the way. And thrilled to join you guys today. So thanks for having me. Terrific.
Well, thank you, both of you for joining. And we've got a fantastic topic today. Over the last couple of months, I mean, we've had some fantastic conversations with loyalty leaders, and obviously it's focused on what's going on in 2020 in a lot of ways. Although that said, the insights that we've really dug into are quite applicable across the board, regardless of whether you're in the middle of an international crisis or not. But we've focused on a few very interesting points. Things such as status extensions. Things such as which segments of your member base are traveling now, are not traveling now, or potentially have travel to give this year versus those that are just, forget it, 2020 is done and dusted. And that's a very oversimplification, obviously. But it's an interesting framework to start with. And the reason for that is if we flip it the other way and we think about where we are now going into the second half of 2020, we are seeing flights open up. We are seeing some traffic volumes pick up around the world. Some only strictly domestically, some very limited international. We can all be pundits about what's going to happen next, but I'll let the experts speak for themselves. Ed Bastian from Delta the other day, literally saying, we're having some fantastic numbers in the US market. You, of course, read about them all the time with the TSA screening numbers going back up. Of course, they're still 80% down, year over year. But compared to where they were, 30, 60 days ago, of course, is miraculous. But Ed Bastian, the way he described it, is very, very clear. And that is that the vast majority of the traffic they're seeing right now is leisure traffic. There's a bit of VFR, visiting friends and relatives in there. People have been cooped up, fake cabin fever. They've missed important family occasions. And to be honest, it's coming to the summer break now, and people want to hit the beach. We won't comment on the wiseness of that. It's just an observation about what's going on. But he made a good point, and that is that his expectation, and I think there's a little bit of hope / expectation in there, is that business travel is likely to pick up after the US Labor Day weekend, which is first week of September. Now, most people, certainly on the discussions we've been having on these calls over the last couple of months, and certainly most of the other experts in the industry that I think we all speak to as well, everyone seems to feel it roughly the same way. That is that leisure and VFR traffic is picking up first. Business travel, especially managed corporate, will come later. But there is a bit of business travel right now. Certainly anecdotally, there is a little bit of business travel right now. And I think that's what I would describe as the hardcore road warriors out there that are just either, number one, you know what, I have to travel. Regardless of whether I want to or not, or I'm fearful or not, I have to travel for my job. Number two, there's a bunch that just, you know what, managed risk, I'm okay with traveling, let's just get back into it. But the reality is that's a very, very small number. That segment isn't saving the industry. And having you gents on the show this week is great because I want to turn the conversation around. And the topic for today's conversation is loyalty promotions, making sure they're relevant. I think this is a great conversation we could have. We could have had in 2018, we could have had in 2019, we could have in 2021. But when we overlay it with where we are today as a travel industry, it's a fascinating I think it's a fascinating topic because what we saw with this crisis developing was most travel brands going dark. Probably wisely. We saw some misfires at the peak of the crisis from one or two brands that were just tone deaf to what was going on. But also it was a case of brands have some budget challenges right now. And normally promotions are used to incent some additional travel, some additional flights, some additional hotel nights at the margin, getting that extra 1 or 2 bits of travel from a potential business traveler or leisure traveler, but also share of wallet. Rob, you're going to travel, you've got a flight next week. If I'm British Airways, I want you to fly BA. I don't want you to fly Virgin. So a promotion might, the theory goes, hopefully sway that business decision or that share of wallet decision. Quick takes. Gentlemen, let's go to you. Let's go to a quick take on the overview of that topic, and sort of that introduction that I made. Feel free to agree, disagree, or throw your own spin on it. Gib.
Yeah, I think quick take, basically, it's an exciting time and could be very exciting going forward. I think brands are only now just starting to come out with their best introductory offers for what it's going to take to get us back out there. But I think that they also have to balance the trust that some kind of marginalized over the past few months of dealing with customers who had existing bookings. So I know some people want to see some things change or some things made right before they'll jump back into the saddle again, no matter how attractive the offer. So I'm optimistic with the side of caution.
Rob?
There's nothing. There's nothing happening here, David. The US is a different market. I'm in our office here. There is nobody in this building. There is nobody on the street, even now, even with all the shops in theory open. In theory, there is no one here, literally. You can probably see no one behind me hanging around the building. The idea, of course, the UK still has quarantine in place, so I can't even leave the country without quarantining 2 weeks when I come back. There's nowhere I need to fly. Hotels are not open in the UK at the moment, so there's nothing happening here, and there won't be for quite a while. And that's difficult. It's a disaster if you're Virgin Atlantic because you're only doing long-haul travel mainly to the US, and the chance of people being allowed back into the US, or even frankly wanting to go back to the US at the moment for at least 4 or 5 months is probably nil. Europe is easier, but obviously, British Airways, Virgin, exposure to short haul is nil to not a huge amount in terms of revenue. I'm not actually sure, it's difficult. I just don't see much happening at all. I'm also slightly unsure of the extent to which you actually want to get people on the move. I mean, I know it sounds slightly bizarre, but if I'm Hilton Diamond, does Hilton really want its diamonds going to hotels where the lounges are closed, there are no room upgrades, they can't have any of the facilities or benefits they'd usually get? Do you actually want people coming in and having a subpar experience when we're expecting more? Is it not better just to dump those rooms out to tour groups or whatever from people who don't actually expect all the frills and status perks? I'm not, is it worse to give your best customers no experience than a terrible one? I'm not sure.
That's a really fascinating point. And I mean, when you're talking about the UK experience, I mean, in Australia right now, we're seeing domestic travel opening back up, although it looks like they're getting some a hiccup or two this week. But, they had intrastate restrictions as well, quite strict interstate restrictions. So, and internationals, forget it. I mean, just forget about it. There is no international travel there. And the government this last week came out and said don't expect international travel before 2021. So, given the Australian market there, I mean, domestic tourism is not to be sneezed at. So once interstate travel opens up freely, that is not to be sneezed at. Yeah. But Australia is a destination location, and it is a origin location as well for significant outbound. Particularly to obviously the UK and the US markets. When we talk about loyalty promotions, and when we think about, I guess, your core day-to-day jobs for the two of you, and we think about the type of customer you guys deal with, your readership group. We have a whole continuum of people. We have people really reflects a membership base of a program, if you think about it. Whereas in the average loyalty program, you have members that they're barely members. They got enrolled at a front desk or somehow somewhere on the website, and they don't really know anything about the program. They're engaged with the program. They earned a couple of points once, and that's about it. And then you have on the other extreme, you have people that live and breathe this. I mean, you mentioned Flyer Talk earlier, Rob. You have people that know, and they know your program better than your program managers know your program. And they will take advantage of every promotion that's out there. They will maximize the value there, but they're also your biggest advocates. Now, sometimes program managers aren't so sure about that group because they think, that group, they get too much value. It doesn't, it doesn't match our cost per point on our spreadsheet goals. But that portion is such a small percentage of your average program base. It's not something program managers should worry about. But you have this huge bulk in the middle that is everything from your loyal leisure traveler. Might be once a year, but they fly 100%, BA all the time, or Virgin all the time, or whatever it might be. Or Ryanair or EasyJet for that matter, through to, self-funded business travelers and managed corporate travelers that take an interest and still are motivated by the program. And normally, in a normal year, we'd be thinking about perhaps, or the conversation would go something along the lines of, hey, what generous kind of cool promotions have you got out there that, that travelers should be thinking about and be aware about? I think the conversation feels very different right now. And it really is what's appropriate for programs to be pushing out. And Rob, to your point, if you have significant markets that are actually closed, should our global promotions, especially when we're talking about hotels, because hotels, global promotions are more global. If you're British Airways, you run a promotion. I mean, obviously it's skewed towards your home market. Qantas, if you're Lufthansa, there's a home market bias there. So let's do our hotels for a second. Are global promotions actually appropriate right now? And Gib, you made a point of we're seeing some programs test the water a little bit with some opening gambits. Does it really matter whether we're talking about when they're testing the waters? Can they just kind of do whatever they like and they'll find something that gets some traction and, we shouldn't overanalyze it? Gib, let's start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't really see the issue in putting offers out there and learning from them. I think Qatar Airways was fascinating with their book a ticket, then you can change it to anywhere within 5,000 miles. I was quite sure when I read it at first that they had made an error, and I actually reached out because I didn't want to tell people something in error. And they said, no, it's 5,000 miles, go for it. And I thought, wow, that's unexpected. And people were really amused by that. And I think it got the conversation of travel going again. Whether that means people actualize and book something is a different story, but you start to get the juices flowing of where would I go again? Where would I like to be? Is it 2021? Is it the end of the year? Then you start doing your research and you start to bring this back full circle. Hotels now actively encouraging some summer travel. And I think, especially, Rob kind of talked about guests having an inferior experience. I think there's some truth to that, but I also think that someone who's a Hilton Diamond is probably in these, forums or Facebook groups and is learning and is pretty up to date with what the offerings are. And I think, they're pretty eyes open about what to expect. I know some people will say, I don't want to experience this unless it's this or that. And I found in points that to be the case where, I am very lucky. I fly business class all the time and revenue tickets or points tickets, whatever. For me, it's about the seat and the sleep. For others, it really is that once a year experience going somewhere, and they don't want to have that marginalized, full PPE gear and, and a little carton dropped off of them with a bottle of water. So I get it from both sides, but I don't see anything at all wrong with testing the waters, getting the conversation going again, seeing how sweet it needs to be. I think Fairmont did a good job with the promotion recently. They were doing, I think, buy one, get one, basically. And it was still flexible. You could cancel up to 7 days in advance. So I think that gave people the confidence to, okay, let's plan for the best, be prepared for the worst. And, again, it's opening these ideas again and getting people thinking.
I think there's an issue of the price and whether you focus on price or not. The programs would like us not to focus on price. The programs would like you to pay more and perhaps go out there and do double status credits, or those of us getting on a bit run with the Hyatt's faster free nights offers. Stay into crappy old cheap Hyatts anywhere in the world and get a free night credit for any property globally, which was a massive thing 15 years ago. But there's a risk of being tone deaf on something. If you go out there and start encouraging pointless mattress runs because you're doing triple status credits, or you're doing faster free nights. If I can do 2 nights at the Hyatt at Heathrow at 35 quid, I can do a Park Hyatt Sydney for free next year. That has the ability to look bad, I think. Fundamentally just encouraging people to run around doing spurious bookings, trips they don't want to take. But that's the obvious sort of default action for a loyalty program. But I think that could all backfire.
But is that what they're actually encouraging, or is that just something that people might do in a very fringe element?
I don't know. I mean, if you're doing, it's a fair point. I mean, if you do, stay 2, get 1 free anywhere in the world, does that encourage abuse or not? Is that designed to abuse? I mean, it would. The truth is, if Hyatt offered that, then all the cheap Hyatts in the US would be swamped overnight, every night for the next 3 months. Do the hotels want that? Is that sensible? Does that send out the right message? I don't know. But there is, we did a Park Plaza, which is a sort of posh Radisson sub-brand, did an offer recently offering one of their London hotels for £99 a night through September. And we mentioned it, we did it in 2 articles, and we had £40,000 of room bookings put through our affiliate links over a weekend, 40 grand. So that's 400 room nights effectively. People are willing to book if it's good value and it's refundable. So I think people do want to do stuff, but it's also the price is amazing because for hotels, the running costs are now going to get very high. If you've got to keep rooms empty for 24 hours between guests, you've got to spend a lot more time and money on cleaning. You can't start dumping out your rooms for next to nothing because your marginal costs have suddenly gone up quite a lot. If you can't feed everyone of evenings, so you could have to send some guests out for food because you can't serve everyone in your restaurants, it's too small. The economics might even be there. So I don't quite know. Do you even want people in? Even for redemptions, if your cleaning costs are no longer covered now by the $20 that IHG pays you for hosting a reward night, then do you want to encourage more redemptions? I don't know.
But what about the opportunity cost? For example, one of the deals, not that I'd be able to use it today, was with Fairmont, is doing, their buy one, get one flexible rate.
Yep.
So what if I'm going on a trip no matter what? I think Brian Chesky, CEO of Airbnb, recently said that they had an actual rise in domestic bookings year over year in the United States. So if I'm going to a certain destination, wouldn't that hotel rather capture my future business today than risk losing me in the future because there weren't any promotions? I may go to a city for the first time.
That's a price deal, isn't it? So that's fine. I don't think you're giving away. That's a good offer. I agree. You're selling, summers to peak season for Fairmont. Those Canadian hotels cost a fortune normally this time of year. 2-for-1 will get people in there who could not normally afford it at full price at summer rates, and that will work for them.
And if I have a great experience now, travel will come back. It may be different, but I may never look again at another hotel in that market because I was able to have this great experience the first time, and I might become less price conscious in the future, which I then think proves the efficacy of the loyalty program. Because as you said, the programs would love people to be less price focused, and if I've had a fantastic introductory experience at one of these properties, I might come back next time not too worried about the rate and pay full rack and get single points and be thrilled with it.
Yeah, no, I think we've probably all paid for suites in hotels where we previously got an upgrade for free, and we've gone back and paid for the suite because we actually liked it last time and wanted to make sure we had it. I think that's
the basic.
That's not quite the same as encouraging Fairmont elites to go in and encouraging Fairmont elites up ahead of other people when those elites will not get what they expect.
I have a core platinum. I'm not expecting much. If it's a shorter check-in line or in-room check-in, that's great with me. I'm thrilled. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Pricing angle is interesting. And Rob, you make a good point, and that is that actually you both make a good point in terms of the customer experience. But this is this is like bread and butter stuff. Table stakes is if a customer comes into your establishment, whether it's your airline or your hotel, they have a good experience, they're likely to come back. That's Loyalty 101. And I use Loyalty 101 with a lowercase L, not loyalty programs, just Loyalty 101. You go into a coffee shop, a retail outlet, you go to get your haircut, Rob, you have a good experience. You're perhaps a little price insensitive the second time around because your default position is inertia. You're going to go back to where you were before, unless there's a obstacle, a friction point, distance, cost, some kind of difficulty of use, or as we all know, you have a bad experience, and then you actually make a conscious effort to go and look around elsewhere. But absent any of those friction points, Loyalty 101, lowercase loyalty, that's how it works. Which is, why we always joke, as loyalty consultants that, hey, sometimes to clients, you don't need a loyalty program. You just need to do your job right and get your core product.
That's why Brett Manger, Four Seasons, etc., do not have loyalty programs. You don't need
exactly.
Frankly, it's almost a sign you're doing something wrong if you feel you need loyalty programs.
Can we get that up as a banner on your website?
No, but that's important. The differentiation between having a formal loyalty program versus having a loyalty strategy. And he very much has an incredible base of very, very loyal guests. But it's built into the core brand proposition of the product. Now, in terms of price, price is interesting because we think back to the beginning of the crisis here, which had huge parallels to right after 9/11. And that is that people thought, there's going to be the deal of the century, basically the day after the world stopped flying. Yeah. And that's not what happened. And the reason for that is simply because at the beginning of this crisis, the people who were flying were price insensitive. They were people who had to fly anyway. And the people who could be incentivized at the margin to fly with a promotion or a discount weren't going to fly just because you gave them a good deal. They weren't flying because they were afraid to fly, or there were regulatory restrictions in place preventing them from flying. Now we're moving into, and ultimately we're going to get to a point in the future where you have everybody in the market available to fly. Those regulatory restrictions won't be there, and it will be a case of everybody will have their incentive to fly. They either have to, or they have a purpose to fly because they have a wedding to go to, for example, or there's the deal of the century and that incentivizes them to take a trip they otherwise wouldn't have taken. we're not there yet. We're somewhere. We're sort of in this no man's land in the middle here. But there is, the purpose of promotions is to try to incent that business at the margin. If we think about it through that lens, we are seeing some deals coming up now. We saw initially in this crisis, yes, prices remained high, but the very first thing we saw flexible travel policies for future bookings. And we can argue about whether airlines and hotels handled people with existing bookings correctly or not. Let's just put that to the side for the time being. But first, there was flexibility so that people had peace of mind when making future bookings, because who knows what the future is going to bring. They may need to cancel. We still see a little bit of flexibility for future bookings across brands. But we're now starting to see some specials, some short term, some longer term, just to get some bookings and revenue on the books. But we still, I think, have two groups of people out there. I think the data seems to support this, and certainly anecdotally, there's no shortage of anecdotes about this. And that is, there's two groups of people. There are those that are willing to fly right now or have to fly, and there are those that are just still not comfortable flying. Or I'll rephrase: they're hesitant to fly. They're hesitant to travel. And to get over that hump, what we're seeing from airlines and hotels is a non-stop barrage of advertising, paid social, email, press releases about, come and stay with our hotel. We have the best cleaning protocols in the business. Come and fly with our airline. You won't find a microbe anywhere on our aircraft. Now, they want you to think that they were cleaning the tray tables beforehand, of course. And then you got to your seat and you found the snotty tissue stuffed in there. They want you to think that they were cleaning the hotel rooms beforehand. You peeled back the sheets and find that there wasn't changed from the previous guest. So airlines and hotels don't have a good track record with saying, trust us, we clean our product. Now, of course, they're saying, well, we've partnered with Clorox or some certification agency that no one's ever heard of before that is going to certify our cleaning regimes. People are getting out there and traveling, and we're already seeing some trip reports coming through from people on social media, on blogs, on forums, where people are traveling. They are staying at these major brands, and they're finding that employees aren't wearing face masks. We're finding that cleaning regimens aren't being adhered to. Before we even get to price or here's some bonus points for staying, the point is that segment of travelers that are hesitant to travel, you've got to get them over that hurdle before they're even considering price or a promotion. Is that not the first step?
This definitely is the first step, and I would say that I was one of those people. I had a necessary trip. It was for visa reasons. Basically, I had to fly a couple of weeks ago to the United States. I did so. I flew KLM. I was actually very impressed with what they were offering on board, not in terms of product, but in terms of safety. They did seem to be taking it very seriously. Everyone was wearing the PPE. Everyone was made to wear their masks. Reminders were frequent. But then I hear all these reports, especially in the US, where half the passengers aren't wearing them. Some become so combative that they're having to turn the plane around. And these are the things that I think will ultimately create longer term hurdles for getting people back at any price point. And I think you said it best, loyalty is only necessary if, it isn't really as necessary if you're doing your job right. And if you're actually living up to these banners that you're putting on, social media and on COVID hubs and stuff like that, talking about what you're doing, people will come back. Because I found their experience to be remarkably reassuring in a way. I was able to go from place to place. I didn't feel, at great risk because everyone was wearing a mask. I like that Virgin Atlantic and a few airlines now have the kits when you come on board with the masks, the gels and the all the other stuff to keep clean. But yeah, I think it's just the ultimate own goal where you've created these loyalty promotions, you've done all these things to incentivize travel, and someone gets there and none of the promises you've been delivered on the most basic level are there. I think that's just such a shocking fail for a huge major brand. Of course, it's difficult. You have franchise hotels and whatever, but it's such a basic thing that is going to ultimately be kind of the Achilles heel.
So it's further down the line, isn't it? Because you have to you have to have a bad experience before you'd be put off. But are people even going to have that first step to even try it out?
I think they want to.
I think there are some people. I mean, there's a real, there's a real generational gap thing on here. Yeah, there are some people who simply will not travel for any reasons. Some of those are sensible reasons because they have underlying health issues and are at greater risk from this. Frankly, I really couldn't give a toss. I see my risk of catching this as nil. The number of people of my age group who've died in the UK from this is like, can't count on my fingers and toes. I have no health concerns about traveling myself, but other people do. I'm pretty sure if I was 20, 25 now, it wouldn't even cross my mind, frankly. But for people in certain groups, there will be nothing you can do to get them on. The other thing is, unlike 9/11, where it was really an aircraft thing, this is more a whole process thing. Even if you believe the airlines are going to keep you okay, then you've got to worry about the rental car, then you've got to worry about the hotel room, on the beach, in the hotel restaurant, if you're out shopping, in the gallery you might go to. So it's not just, even if the airlines could prove there was no chance at all you could catch this under any scenario, it wouldn't solve the problem, in that people still wouldn't have no faith in the rest of the process. I think 9/11 was slightly different because once you got people over the idea of increased safety, then no one was concerned about having trouble in their hotel or when they got to a resort. But now it's the entire chain. And to some extent, if you're going to book a holiday, the whole chain has to be strong. Unless you're just going to visit family and friends, the whole chain has to work otherwise. You also have to believe in your hotel and all of the other parts of that trip. You have to believe in all the restaurants you go to while you're away, or the shops you might go to, the galleries you may go to. Are you confident in all that?
Which I think speaks to the Airbnb.
We're still making plans to get away with summer as soon as we decide what we can do. But there are plenty of people who won't. But then what you do, at some point, people will just realize that you can't live this way anyway. It's not unless you are really in a high risk group, people will come round, but it's going to take time. And sort of thing, is it worth giving a really good deal to get people into hotels on planes so they look full? Does activity create more activity?
I think if I could just quickly interject, I think one thing that is a unique opportunity for loyalty programs and promotions right now is to actually turn the spotlight onto segments of travel which were underserved before. So much of the mass travel market was major cities, New York, London, Rome, Sydney, and there are all these fantastic properties and destinations that are more naturally socially distanced, more outdoor focused. I think of, let's say, Zion National Park or something like that. You have an opportunity to perhaps create promotions which actually are listening to what Rob just mentioned. You're only as good as your weakest link. People don't want to travel far. They're afraid of crossing borders, but that's not an obstacle for many of these chains. And I think this is where loyalty could really make a difference in highlighting some of these properties that have traditionally been outside of the business traveler's mindset, or the kind of points traveler's mindset of let's get them to actually look at some of these destinations, which may not be all that far, could just be a drive away, and are a super experience, which will get them into the brand.
And that's I think that's a good point. And just before I go on to it, actually, just to remind our attendees as well, we do have Q&A as well, so feel free to put your questions in. We'll try to get to those in the second half of the show here. After 9/11, there's fantastic data. Obviously, if we look to the past, we can look to other crises like 9/11, SARS, and obviously this is not the same as all of those previous ones, but we can see some patterns that clearly are going to have some relevance here. And one of them was after 9/11, a lot of people took trips by car in domestic markets, or if they did fly, they flew domestically, not international. There are a lot of parallels to the current situation here. So I think you're right on that. And perhaps to your example, Gilbert, is that hotels have a little bit of an advantage over airlines here. Whereas, for example, Rob, to your opening statement, hey, guess what, BA, there's absolutely no point doing anything right now because the UK is closed for business, basically, and will be for the foreseeable future. Whereas hotels, if you pick a market, any market. If you're locked in the Australian domestic market, the New Zealand domestic market, pick a market anywhere, the UK, the US, and you either can't travel by air or you're just hesitant to travel by air for whatever reason, guess what? You can get in a car and you can still go and visit your favorite chain hotel, depending on your destination. I want to pivot slightly here and just go back to a point we made earlier, and that is that oversimplistically, we can break travelers into two groups: those that are prepared to travel right now and those that are not prepared to travel right now. And we've covered a lot of reasons why they might not be prepared to travel right now. Perhaps their age group, they're too much at risk and they absolutely shouldn't be traveling. It could be regulatory restrictions, or it could be they might have been prepared to travel, but they're seeing, all these reports on social media about people on the planes not wearing masks and things like that. They're seeing hotels not properly staying up to their cleaning standards, and those people are now going, hang on a minute, whoa. Let's put those people to the side, because you're not running a loyalty promotion for those people that aren't going to travel regardless. If you're going to run a loyalty promotion or a price drop, whatever it might be, some kind of discounting, some kind of incentive to get people to travel with your brand or stay at your brand, you're doing it to the segment of the market that has potential to actually come and be your customer next week or next month or whatever your desired time period is. With that said, we have some interesting dynamics, that you didn't have in 2019, for example. Number one, you have a bunch of customers that quite frankly are pissed off. And they're pissed off because they got screwed over by your brand with regard to canceling their existing reservations over the last few months. Now, whether that be refunds, and we've talked about that, and I want to go down that rabbit hole, but the point is you have a segment of your membership or your customer base or your potential customer base, they're actually annoyed with you right now. They're actively annoyed with you, or they feel blatantly ripped off. That's going to impact brand selection right now, even if somebody is prepared to travel next week. You also have with status extensions, which, clearly, and there was some debate in the beginning, but clearly in hindsight, absolutely the right thing to do to look after your loyal base of members. But you also have an opportunity, if competitor brands play their cards right, and I don't necessarily have 100% faith that every program will get this right, but if they do get it right, there is the potential for competitors to absolutely try to steal your base. Essentially, we've talked about it before, but 2020 is a massive reset for everybody. You're in the habit. Let's go back to the hairdresser example, right? You go to the same hairdresser all the time. Unless a friction point or some other kind of circuit breaker is introduced, you don't think twice about things. We've had a massive circuit breaker. It's a massive reset for people. People who were used to being on the road every week have now been stuck at home. They're reevaluating, do they need to travel? Where do they travel? Who they travel with? How long? All those questions. Given the fact that some of your customers are annoyed with you, given the fact that it's a huge reset in terms of what's happening now, which maybe let's reframe it, it's a free-for-all going forward. Does that make promotions and incentives more important going forward? And if the answer is yes, it's a leading question, but if the answer is yes, what would be your number one piece of advice to a program manager about thinking about promotions going forward? Rob?
It's difficult because one thing about status matches and status extensions mainly, is that they do have a disproportionate, they can affect your behavior negatively. My BA Gold's now been kicked out to October 2022. I don't need to fly a single mile on British Airways, next year at all because my Gold's guaranteed. Arguably I probably should because I've got the status and I've got everything else when I do fly, but
sure.
If I wanted to spend the year building up status on Star or someone, I could do that. Same with my hotel status, that's all been kicked out. So there is possibly a group of people who will be willing to try other things because their status is locked in and they've got flexibility. British Airways left it really late. I had a weird feeling that British Airways wasn't going to do it, and possibly only the bad publicity about their restructuring in the UK press recently has pulled them round. I would have understood BA if they'd said, look, our lounges had to run at half capacity for the next 12 to 18 months. We cannot cope with all these people, so we're just going to let people lose their status because it's the only way we can control lounge access, priority boarding, and all that sort of thing. We left it very, very late, and I'm not entirely sure if it was just a semi-desperate measure at the end to get some good publicity. And indeed, if you look at Flight Talk and like, you'll see how easily certain people are bought off with the state extensions who've been threatening never to fly BA again due to their treatment of their employees. But I don't know. If I was a program manager wanted to keep my job, I would be looking to do as much as I could in order to get people get heads in beds. Whether I would end up regretting it due to claims of insensitivity and the like, I don't know. At the moment, no hotels running at 95%. 95% occupancy is the level at which redemption normally triggers full rack rate from the program to the chain. So if you can run a promotion which gives someone a free night voucher, but they have to spend that free voucher within, say, the next 8-12 months, you can be 99% sure that will be redeemed at a point where the hotel is not at 95% occupancy. So the cost of redeeming that free night is peanuts. And that gives you a lot more to play with in terms of the economics of doing deals. So perhaps you could go back to the old, Hyatt fast free nights, do free nights, any Hyatt, Marriott, whatever, get a voucher for a free night at any hotel in the chain. Some people would abuse that and go and you end up booking 10 nights at a local Hyatt place for 5 nights in Vendôme in Paris. But again, the cost of average redemptions in Paris is going to be peanuts because that hotel in Paris will be empty for the next 18 months anyway. So there is, from the economics of the program point of view, I think there's things you can do, but it's more about how it's seen and how it's perceived, and you can imagine bad publicity over Marriott encourages people to take pointless trips purely to get free night vouchers or something. It could backfire. It wouldn't backfire among the people who it's aimed at. It would generate business, but I think it could backfire in the wider world. But at the end of the day, you're giving away something which has zero marginal cost. And if you're a hotel, until you're at 95% availability, or with an airline, until you're giving away seats you could otherwise have sold for cash, that won't be happening for a while either. Mm-hmm. You have an amazing opportunity to do stuff which is interesting and creative, as long as you don't get the messaging wrong, effectively.
Yeah, so my take on it is really that I think there are people who do feel marginalized, even if they've been given a status extension, and that is a very, in a way, fun and also a very dangerous thing for brands to be faced with, because if as Rob said, I do have a free status extension and I happen to feel wronged by one of brands, and someone comes out with a fantastic promotion that lures me away, I'm more likely than ever to do that because I have this gratis status for the next year to become a free agent and see what's out there. I think what matters, you asked for, not that, I'm in a position to give advice, but, what advice I would give is that I think what the sticking point here is that you don't want to become another stepping stone in their loyalty journey. So if you do offer something here, you want to make it trustworthy enough and easy enough that they stay and that you've made a new home. So a perfect example in my mind of just a great opportunity, but somewhat missed, was I think Etihad is doing this 50% bonus if you buy a voucher. So you pay cash now, you can start redeeming your vouchers from August 1st. Really interesting offer, and you're basically accruing 50% interest. So you're making a significant cost savings on future bookings in all likelihood. The thing is that, at least when I first tried it, you needed to call, you needed to then buy a voucher at equal value, which they then promised to make into a voucher at a later date with a higher value. And you're talking about so many steps where most people don't quite have the faith in any brand at this point to go there. Whereas if you said to me, Apple Pay, book now, you'll see it within 24 hours and I can do it from my mobile phone, that would have sealed the deal. I think I would have been in on that as one data point. And so I think, one would be to embrace new technology, make these things easy, make them fast, make them mobile so that people can have these kind of rapid deals come at them and choose what they want to do, rather than wait through 20 minutes of jazz music only to be told that they may, at a later date have something more valuable, perhaps. And the other thing is to play to the strengths of what people are experiencing with these trends. Like we said, if you like, why not have, Rob, in the UK where we are here, the Dominic Cummings promotion, like have, everyone can do a local tour of the UK once lockdown lifts, and every destination on Dominic Cummings road trip that they tick off, they get an extra point. I think there's real opportunity to create things that wouldn't necessarily attract bad press, that do encourage, let's say, the domestic or the short haul tourism people are looking towards. So make it easy, make it fun, and make it something that people won't then be frustrated by because of the terms and conditions or impossibilities of actualizing it. So,
in terms of, it's funny. I saw the recent Hyatt promotion that came out, And I have to say, it caught me a little bit by surprise. I mean, I'll give them some benefit of the doubt here that maybe they're just, testing the waters, dipping the toe in, and it's a half effort. But let's hope that's what it is. But what we saw was, for example, it was off the top of my head, a triple point starting with your second stay, I think, for general members. Back in 2019, let's go back a year, 2 years, 3 years. I mean, that's standard. I mean, this is standard one-on-one for a hotel promotion because you have a vast majority of people that stay with your brand once or fly with your brand once, and that's it. You never see them again. So to some degree, there's no point bonusing those people because you're giving away points and you're not going to get any extra behavior change out of that. Whereas when you don't give out the bonus until the second stay or the second flight, there's two things. Number one, you're giving some people an incentive to come back a second time, but it also means you're only engaging with an incurring cost or potential cost with those that are staying with you multiple times. If they're staying with you twice, then the chances or the potential to get them to stay a third time or a fourth time is so much greater compared to people that are single stayers or single flyers. I was surprised to still see that approach with Hyde. I would think it occurs to me right now that if you're putting an incentive out there, you're putting an incentive out there because you're trying to get people, heads in bed. You are trying to get people to pull the trigger. If they're on the fence and they're thinking about, do I take a trip, do I not take a trip, or I'm taking a trip but I haven't decided where to stay yet, you know what? Right now, you want that single stay because you have 0 stays. You're not starting with single stayers trying to get second stays. You're starting with 0 trying to get 1. Am I off base?
No, but the higher program was wrong in many ways. Because for a start, if you're elite, you do get a bonus on your first stay. You get 2,500 elites get 2,500 points on their first day. So actually, that goes against what you just said, which is the elites who are doing the stays anyway get a bonus on the first day. What's the point of that? And the bonus is 2,500 points, which is probably more than the triple points is worth at certain cheap hotels. The other thing is that it's a messaging thing. If I'm off to the Park Hyatt in Mallorca for a week, which is about £4,000, about $5,000 for a week at this time of year, the points on my maths, this Hyatt promo is worth about 20% of your spend back in points. So I'm looking at £1,000, $1,200 of points tripled. Obviously, I'm going to go and do a mattress run somewhere for £50, $60 before my Hyatt Mallorca stay because I'm not going to turn down £1,000 of bonus points. But, do I, in the current scenario, want to be taking public transport out to some random hotel and then spending a night in a hotel I didn't need to stay out, incurring, some sort of risk to myself to do that? It makes no sense. It's just the whole thing is just silly. It's a generous promo. I mean, giving 20% of your stay back in points, which hopefully you'll redeem relatively soon, so the hotel's not really incurring much cost on your redemption. That works. That makes sense. I'm okay with that. But this whole get it from your second stay nonsense, which I've never liked, and I always think sends out the wrong message in the first place. Just in the current scenario, forcing people to do mattress run nights just to trigger a bonus on the second stay is, I think, not the way to go. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
Yep.
I tend to agree. I think the second stay in the current climate's a bit of an odd move. I think that going with something perhaps a bit more bespoke would have been a better approach, especially because, like you said, to lead it off, 2x, 3x summer promotions, that's just kind of standard anyway. So it's not really, in my opinion, moving the needle in any meaningful way that it wouldn't have before. It's just going back to the wheelhouse. And I think people want something new and moving to actually get them out of the house again.
Just let's take a very quick break. I need to do the obligatory thanks to our sponsors. Thank you to Engage, Amia, Adara, and also thank you to our hotel sponsors for our Loyalty Summit event. Loyalty Summit Americas, proudly sponsored by Hilton. Loyalty Summit Europe, proudly sponsored by Radisson Rewards. And talking about our physical Loyalty Summit event, we actually have some fantastic news. We have some details available for our next event, which is Loyalty Summit in the Americas. And people are invited to join us at the Conrad in Washington, D.C. on December the 2nd. as Loyalty Summit comes to the Americas. You get to hear insights from some fantastic industry loyalty leaders. Here's some on the screen now. Hopefully you can see that will be joining us for Loyalty Summit in the Americas. And the new loyaltysummit.com website is live with those details now as well. So we've very much looking forward to, and we're excited to get back to our live events. So check out loyaltysummit.com. And from there as well, you can look at the replays of our webcasts. Follow us on LinkedIn and our YouTube channel as well for more details. Getting back to the question at hand, making sure that if you're going to run promotions, making sure that they're relevant to your members. And when we say relevant to your members, I mean, really what we mean by that is, you use the term move the needle, and I mean, if you're not going to incentivize a change in behavior amongst your membership base or your potential membership base, i.e. get people to perhaps enroll in your program and be relevant to them, then there's no point running a promotion. There really just isn't. And we picked on Hyatt there a few minutes ago, but we've seen some, what was it, 500 bonus points from American Airlines a little while back. We've seen most programs are either a bit lackluster right now, or they're still remaining dark. They haven't kind of come out of going dark on the communications. We might have seen some on the ground offers just to incent some engagement or points purchasing or something, or gift cards, but we really haven't seen any big punches yet. Air Canada aside, we obviously talked to them in detail last week. Do you think the timing is right now for programs to be thinking about, look, there is some travel out there. Your managed corporate travel isn't coming back. You've got some, locations around the world that are still, travel is off the agenda, but there is some travel out there, and it may be able to be incentivized, maybe not to get people to take the trip, but for people that are taking a leisure trip in the Northern Hemisphere, a summer leisure trip, or, VFR traffic, getting them to choose your airline or your hotel over a competitor. Is it worth putting the time in now to be getting out there with generous promotions, or is it a waste of time now?
One thing we haven't looked at, I suppose, is what the hotel owners think about this. It's different with the airlines, but for hotels, in some ways, promotions are also there to keep the owners on side, to make the owners think it is worth being part of Hyatt, because Hyatt's out there pushing the business, putting these promos out, getting heads in beds for me. I'm also not sure what the owners are thinking. If the owners actually want huge amounts of redemption business coming in because there's some redemption promo on, or if they want, Hyatt's got another offer out at the moment offering free breakfast. I saw 20% off plus guaranteed free breakfast. But, what sort of free breakfast are they going to be offering? UK won't allow buffets for many months. A lot of the European hotels won't be allowing buffets. So what sort of free breakfast? If you book a rate with free breakfast and you end up getting a doggy bag with a yogurt and a bottle of orange juice in it, then I'm not entirely sure you're going to think you've booked a great deal there. So you've got to keep both constituencies happy. Airlines, I don't know. Is it really worth it for the airlines? Virgin Atlantic in the UK has been quite aggressive on things which work for them, shall we say. So if you book Virgin with PayPal at the moment, you get 5,000 bonus miles. That's because PayPal gives them the money, whereas Visa and MasterCard won't give them the money. They're offering 2,500 bonus miles on any flight, even economy, if you book something for next year at the moment. So these aren't being done for your benefit. These are being done for the benefit of the airlines to try and get some money in the door from people who are possibly on the fence about booking. But, my experience of the British market is that, the vast majority of people will do things on price, and they will tell you one thing about their willingness to fly or travel or do something. But the second you stick something in front of them with the right price in front of it, that all goes out the window, and they will do it.
I think that's a global phenomenon, Rob.
That's where it will, you might say, I don't want to go to Spain this year, a bit too risky. If Ryanair sticks up all Spanish flights, $9.99 deal tomorrow, then they'll fill their planes for a month within 24 hours. So you don't underestimate the desire of people to do stuff purely on a financial basis.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think, one thing we haven't discussed is, of course, there's significant financial impact of all of this that we're living through right now as well. And so points are one thing, but I guess it goes into the segments of travelers in a loyalty program. Of course, there are the people who deeply value points, but there are also just the people who deeply value rebates, deals, and things of that nature. I think Rob hit the nail on the head that pricing will be a huge concern for people going forward. And I think, in a way, price will matter more than anything to do with points, unless it's in a really interesting way. A free night might mean more than points, which could create a free night. So I think it's what type of promotion we're talking about as much as whether or not they should be going on.
It's also the question of actually how much of these programs are driven. I don't know this, but Hilton will know how much of their loyalty business is driven by leisure travel versus corporate travel. They could be sitting there going, 2/3 of the nights booked through Hilton Honors are actually corporate travel. That's disproportionately high. So let's not focus on it. Let's just not push that segment, because at best we're motivating 1/3 of our members who do book primarily for leisure, and we'll go off and focus on group travel or local in-market travel or something else. Because in some ways you're just shouting at a client base which, with the best will in the world, possibly cannot spend or cannot book because their employer won't let them do anything.
I mean, when we think about our membership base, and again, we've talked about it's a whole continuum of people. We have our fanatics, that are well educated on the programs, know all the ins and outs, know all about the deals. They know everything about the programs. And then but the reality is the bulk of members aren't up on that level of detail. They may be 100% loyal. They may be a once-a-year flyer who flies religiously for the last 20 years with the same airline, stays in the same hotel on their annual family trip. They are 100% loyal, but then they don't really pay attention to the details. They have some points, and when they have enough points, one day they use those points. But they're not up on the same level of detail as we are. People more fanatical than us. But for your average program member, a couple of areas of potential concern. Number one, should they be worried? Airlines are in financial distress. Should they be worried about their balance of points in their accounts? And I guess there are a couple of questions lined up on there. Number one, is it just the people that are fanatics that are thinking about this? Or, is the average person out there worried about this? And if they are worried, does that then negate the ability of loyalty programs to run promotions to give bonus points? Because hey, if you're Australian, you still remember Ansett Australia and you lost a bunch of points with them, all those years ago, you might not be thinking about, give me more points. I want more points right now at this risky time. The second point, though, is about potential devaluations, in the future. And those that are savvy, frequent flyers and hotel stayers, think about these kind of things. They think about how many points they earn. They think about whether award charts are going to devalue in the future. Again, is this a tiny segment of the membership that is even thinking about this? Is it more? Is it a real concern? Is it something that shouldn't even be on members' radars? Gib?
Yeah, well, I think, the interesting point you touched on is that for some people, they were registered at a front desk, or they signed up on that one flight they took years ago, and they just kind of have the promotions trickle into their inbox. And in a way, points are the only real connection to the airline beyond any kind of, well, it's easy and it's what I usually do. And so I think those kind of confidence points can make a big difference. People want to feel like they will still have points, of course. I think it highlights interesting inequalities in how governments have dealt with the situations. Airlines, which now have the liquidity they absolutely need to keep going, where people aren't necessarily worried about the programs, whereas other parts of the world where there's complete uncertainty as to who, if any, which, if any, airlines will make it. But I think it's really interesting to think about that relationship between the most very basic customer and an airline or a hotel. It's these points. And so I think it's a tough topic of conversation, because you don't really want to say, hey, we're not going to lose you your points, because that opens up Pandora's box of, well, why are you talking about losing my points? I wasn't even thinking about it. But it's a unique area, and I think lots of people are thinking about it, because like, as I said, it is their only real connection to some extent. It's not elite status. It's not, the only option. So it's, I have some of those. I hope they make it,
That's an interesting thought, Rob.
I honestly don't know how much the average person even thinks about expiry, to be honest. Does it? I mean, they realise one day they wake up and they're not there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a slightly bigger. If I was a program manager, I would be I would just assume that 80% of my members don't have a clue what my expiry policy is. All they know is that one day they will look at their points and realise they're not there. And when they do realise that, they're going to hate you for it. So you need to deal with the expiry issue for that once-a-year traveller, because if they don't do that once-a-year trip this year, they're going to lose those points. And that's just about keeping those points alive just because they won't even read your emails. They're probably even not subscribed to your emails if they're once-a-year travellers. But you don't want them waking up one day and finding those points aren't there. They're not. I don't think the average person really understands the expiry rules. But it's just this. The bottom line is that when they do expire and they're not there, then it's bad. And
I don't know about you, Rob, but one of the kind of benefits / curses of my job, as is with yours, is that people tend to reach out on family levels when they get that dreaded. My points are expiring. What do I do? And so I think creating undue stress right now just doesn't make a lot of sense. You want people to feel that connection.
No, and you also don't want people to feel they have to go and do a hotel stay.
Exactly.
To keep their points alive.
Yeah.
The other thing, again, because a lot, there's some which, I mean, I've got some Jumeirah Sirius points expiring, which I'm going to have to go and have a coffee in the London hotel just to keep the points alive, which I've done before, once a year, or they expire. But that's fine, at least I don't have to go and stay with them. But, again, if someone felt they were forced to go and do a hotel stay they didn't really want to do just to keep alive a large chunk of points, then, that's absolutely not the way to keep them happy.
Agreed.
It's just all. I mean, people, in my experience, program managers disproportionately overestimate the importance of their program in people's lives. They possibly spend too much time with people like me or Gilbert or cycle leaders who want their program in and out, and they, even the average active member in a program is probably spending 15 seconds a week on average max thinking about that program. And you have to work around that sort of member and what they do and how they think and how they approach it. And it's very easy to forget that and just do things which are, it's very easy to launch a nice promo and get lots of exciting comments on Fly Talk about it and think you've done your job. But actually, you're not doing something which really improves the life for the, literally took 100 million members now of ISG Awards, Club Hill Honours. And getting it, but people disproportionately want 200 nice comments on Fly Talk about their promo, and that's not dealing with the mainstream out there. And the key at the moment is just to, if anything, avoid annoying the vast majority out there, so that when they are ready to come back, they haven't had any reason to hate you during that period.
Great point.
If that made that, I know that's not exactly a great goal in life, just to try and stop people hating you. But if you get through this and you're there, so that's probably enough, isn't it? I mean, when my goal when all this started was just to keep my page views roughly where they were. I just thought, okay, no money for 3 or 4 months effectively, but I thought, as long as I still got readers in place in September when things pick up, then I'm a happy man, frankly, because at least I then have the base to go forward and I can start, in the nicest possible way, flogging them stuff. But that's been my goal for all this, frankly. We're not doing it for money at the moment. We're just doing it to keep the base. And I think if you look at it from that point of view, just doing what you can so that when your members are ready in their own way to travel again, that they're still your friends effectively. Then
I think Rob, I think that's a great point, and I think we'll take that opportunity to finish up on that one. But I really think that you summed it up perfectly, and that is that the best thing your brand can do right now is not give your members an excuse you said to hate you, but maybe we'll be a bit more diplomatic. Don't give your members and your potential customers an excuse to have a friction point with your brand. So when they're ready to come back, do everything you can to just be there for them. Guys, thank you so much. This has been a fantastic session, some great insights. Thanks for giving up your time. Everybody, you can certainly watch the replay of this on the Loyalty Summit YouTube channel, loyaltysummit.com if you're interested in our physical events. Our new website's up now. And we are looking forward to getting back to business later in the year, hopefully when, everybody can get back out there and kind of get back on with things. Thanks again for joining us. Hopefully we'll have you guys again in the future, but thanks for your time. Bye now.
Yeah, good day.
Thanks.
Good.